First contact gone wrong. The deep space research vessel Artemis drifted silently through the Kuiper Belt, its sophisticated array of sensors probing the darkness for signs of the mysterious signal that had brought them to the edge of known space. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at her station, dark eyes fixed on the stream of data flowing across her holographic display. After 6 months of following the signal's trail, they were finally getting close. "Dr. Chen, I'm detecting unusual gravitational distortions ahead," announced Lieutenant James Morrison from the sensor station. "Pattern matches nothing in our database." Sarah straightened, her heart racing. "Show me." The main view screen lit up with a complex web of gravitational waves, twisting and folding space in ways that defied conventional physics. She'd spent her entire career studying theoretical xenotechnology, but this was beyond anything humanity had achieved or even theorized possible. "Captain Walsh to the bridge," Sarah called over the intercom. Within minutes, Captain Alina Walsh strode onto the bridge, her weathered face showing both exhaustion and determination. "Talk to me, Doctor," Walsh ordered, studying the display. "The signal we've been tracking. It's not just a transmission, it's a beacon. Someone or something out there wants to be found." Sarah highlighted a particular pattern in the gravitational waves. "These distortions are artificial, created by technology far beyond our current understanding." Walsh's expression hardened. The Artemis was a research vessel, not a warship. Its crew of 30 scientists and support staff were equipped to study astronomical phenomena, not make first contact with an advanced alien civilization. But they were also the only human ship within 50 astronomical units. "Options?" Walsh asked. "The beacon appears to be leading us somewhere," Sarah replied. "We could follow it, see where it takes us, or we could transmit our findings back to Earth and wait for reinforcements." Walsh considered for a moment. "If we wait, whatever's generating that signal might disappear. We came out here to make discoveries, Doctor. Let's make history." The Artemis adjusted course, following the trail of gravitational distortions deeper into the void. Hours passed as the crew worked to decode more of the signal's complex patterns. Sarah felt a growing sense of anticipation mixed with unease. The technology required to generate these effects was centuries beyond humanity's capabilities. Energy spike. Morrison's warning came seconds before a massive object materialized directly ahead of the Artemis. The vessel that emerged from what appeared to be a localized fold in spacetime dwarfed their research ship. Its hull was composed of impossibly smooth surfaces that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. No visible weapons or propulsion systems were apparent, but the sheer scale of the vessel spoke of technological capabilities that made humanity's greatest achievements seem primitive in comparison. "Multiple smaller vessels deploying," Morrison reported, his voice tight with tension. "They're surrounding us." "Open all frequencies," Walsh ordered. "This is Captain Alina Walsh of the Earth research vessel Artemis. We come in peace, seeking knowledge and understanding." The response came not in words but in actions. A pulse of energy swept through the ship, temporarily disrupting their systems. When power returned, new information filled their databases, technical specifications, star charts, and a message that chilled Sarah to her core. "This is an automated greeting from the Tsar Empire," she translated as the alien text scrolled across her screen. "Your species has been deemed potentially hazardous due to your rapid technological advancement and biological adaptability. Standard containment protocols are now in effect." "What does that mean?" Walsh demanded. The answer came in the form of weapons fire. The smaller alien vessels opened up with energy weapons that sliced through the Artemis's hull like paper. Warning klaxons blared as multiple decks reported catastrophic damage. "Engineering reports critical reactor damage," Morrison shouted over the chaos. "We've got maybe 10 minutes before complete failure." Walsh's voice cut through the panic. "Dr. Chen, download everything we can from their databases. Morrison, plot us a course back to Earth using maximum emergency thrust. We need to warn them." Sarah's fingers flew across her console, copying as much alien data as possible while the ship shuddered around them. The Tsar ships continued their methodical attack, deliberately crippling the Artemis without destroying it completely. They're toying with us, Sarah realized. This is just a demonstration of their power. Well, they're about to learn something about human resilience, Walsh growled. Morrison, divert all remaining power to the engines. Doctor, I need options. Sarah studied the alien data streaming across her screen, looking for anything they could use. Their ships generate localized spacetime distortions for propulsion and weapons targeting. If we could disrupt those fields. How? The reactor's about to go critical anyway. If we modify the containment field harmonics to match their distortion frequency, the explosion could temporarily disable their systems. Walsh nodded grimly. Do it. Morrison, set course directly for the largest concentration of enemy ships. Everyone else, get to the escape pods. The next few minutes were a blur of desperate activity. Sarah worked with engineering to modify the reactor's containment fields while crew members evacuated. The Tsar ships maintained their position, apparently confident in their superiority. Reactor modifications complete, Sarah reported as she and Walsh prepared to leave the bridge. Detonation in 2 minutes. Let's hope this works, Walsh said as they raced for the last escape pod. Otherwise, Earth won't stand a chance. They launched just as the Artemis reactor reached critical mass. The modified containment field collapsed in a precisely calculated way, creating a cascade of spatial distortions that interfered with the Tsar ship's own space-time manipulations. The resulting explosion didn't destroy the alien vessels, but it disrupted their systems long enough for the escape pods to slip away. As their pod accelerated toward Earth, Sarah watched the alien ships gradually recover and begin searching for survivors. They had bought themselves some time, but she knew this was just the beginning. Humanity would need every scrap of ingenuity and determination to survive what was coming. Send a tight beam transmission to Earth Command, Walsh ordered. Priority 1. Message begins. First contact achieved. Hostile forces encountered. Earth is in danger. Transmitting all available data on enemy capabilities. The Tsar Empire is coming, and we are not ready. Sarah clutched the data core containing the downloaded alien information. Somewhere in this vast repository of advanced technology might lie humanity's only hope for survival. The real question was whether they could decipher and apply it before the Tsar arrived in force. What do you think our chances are? Morrison asked quietly. Sarah thought about the incredible leap in technology they would need to make, the unity and determination it would require from all of humanity. They may be more advanced, she said finally, but they've never encountered humans before. They don't know what we're capable of when our backs are against the wall. The escape pod continued its long journey home, carrying with it both the warning of humanity's greatest threat and the seeds of their possible salvation. The first battle was lost, but the war for humanity's survival was just beginning. The Hidden Archive. 6 months after the Artemis incident, Earth had transformed into a fortress world. Every nation had united under the banner of human survival, pooling resources and technology in a desperate race to prepare for the coming storm. Dr. Sarah Chen stood before the United Earth Defense Council, her holographic presentation showing the latest analysis of Tsar technology. Their space-time manipulation capabilities give them an insurmountable advantage, she explained, highlighting the complex equations that describe their propulsion systems. But there's something strange in their behavioral patterns. The Tsar had every opportunity to destroy the Artemis immediately, yet they chose to demonstrate their superiority first. It suggests a level of arrogance we might be able to exploit. Admiral Marcus Zhang, the newly appointed head of Earth's combined defense forces, leaned forward. You have something specific in mind, Doctor. Sarah nodded, bringing up a new set of data. While analyzing the information we retrieved from their systems, I found references to another human encounter with their technology, one that happened over 50 years ago. A murmur of surprise ran through the council chamber. Zhang's expression darkened. That's impossible. We would have known. Not if it was deliberately hidden. Sarah countered. She displayed an encrypted file she discovered buried deep in Earth's military archives. In 2172, a classified research station in the Oort cloud detected an unknown object of apparent alien origin. All records of what happened next were purged, but I found this reference code in both our archives and the XR database. Zhang exchanged glances with other council members before speaking carefully. That project was called Phoenix Station. Its existence is still classified at the highest levels. How did you access this information? I didn't need to. The XR had it in their database, which means they know about whatever happened there. The question is, why haven't they used that knowledge against us? The Admiral was silent for a long moment. Because they're afraid of what we might have learned, he said finally. Phoenix Station was studying theoretical weapons technology that could disrupt space-time fields. The entire station disappeared in what was officially labeled an accident. We never knew if their experiment succeeded. Sarah's heart raced at the implications. If they developed working prototypes, if any of that technology still exists, it could give us a fighting chance. Zhang finished. But the station's location was wiped from all records. Even I don't know where it was. The XR do, Sarah pointed out. Their database contained coordinates, though they're encoded in a way I haven't been able to crack yet. Give me access to everything we have on Phoenix Station, and I might be able to cross-reference the data. The council debated briefly before Zhang made the decision. You have clearance, but there's a complication. The XR have established a blockade around our solar system. Small ships can slip through, but they're actively hunting any human vessel larger than a corvette. Sarah had already considered this. Then we go small. The research vessel Hyperion is designed for stealth observation. With some modifications, we cooled. Alarms blared throughout the facility, cutting her off. The main display showed multiple XR vessels appearing at the edge of the system. They're launching something, an officer reported. Thousands of small objects on ballistic trajectories toward Earth and our colonies. Not an attack, Sarah realized, studying the data. They're message pods. They're making their demands known to everyone. The pod's contents were broadcast globally minutes later. The XR ultimatum was simple: surrender Earth's most brilliant minds and scientific data to serve the Empire, or face extinction. They gave humanity 1 month to comply. They want our innovation potential, Sarah said. They see us as a resource to be harvested or a threat to be eliminated. Nothing in between. Zhang's expression hardened. Then we give them neither option. Dr. Chen, you have your mission. Find Phoenix Station. Captain Maya Rodriguez and the Hyperion will be at your disposal. But you'll need to move fast. The XR will be watching for any attempt to break their blockade. The next 48 hours were a blur of preparation. The Hyperion, a sleek vessel barely 100 meters long, was modified with experimental stealth systems and enhanced sensors. Its normal crew of 20 was reduced to just 8 to maximize operational duration. Captain Rodriguez proved to be a stark contrast to Elena Walsh. Younger, more aggressive, with a reputation for unconventional tactics. My crew's ready, she told Sarah as they made final preparations. Fair warning, though, we've never tested these stealth systems against XR sensors. We'll be flying blind and hoping they are too. Better than waiting here to die, Sarah replied. She had spent every available moment analyzing the Phoenix Station data, trying to crack the XR coordinate encryption. There was a pattern there. She was sure of it, but it kept slipping away. The Hyperion launched under cover of a meteor shower, its enhanced stealth systems masking its energy signature. As they cleared Earth's atmosphere, Sarah got her first look at the XR blockade. Dozens of their massive ships hung in high orbit, smaller vessels patrolling between them like sharks circling prey. Beginning silent running, Rodriguez announced. All non-essential systems powered down. Dr. Chen, you have 2 hours to work on those coordinates before we need to pick a direction. Make them count. Sarah immersed herself in the data, letting patterns wash over her consciousness. The Xar encryption was elegant, based on principles of quantum mathematics that humanity was only beginning to understand. But there was something familiar about it, something that reminded her of. "Got it," she exclaimed suddenly. "They're not coordinates. They're gravitational vectors." Phoenix Station didn't just disappear. It created a permanent space-time anomaly. The Xar can detect it, but they can't approach it directly without risking their own technology. Rodriguez studied the decoded data. That's in the heart of the Oort cloud. Nearly a week's journey, even pushing our engines to the limit. We don't have a choice. Whatever they found out there, whatever they created, it's our best hope for survival. The captain nodded grimly. "Plot the course. Let's go see what secrets humanity buried out there in the dark." As the Hyperion began its careful journey through the blockade, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The Xar ultimatum felt too convenient, their blockade too passive. Were they really just waiting for humanity's response, or were they searching for something specific? The answer, she suspected, lay waiting in the depths of space, in a forgotten station that had touched something fundamental about reality itself. The real question was whether they could reach it before the Xar decided to stop playing games and simply annihilate humanity entirely. 1 month, she murmured, watching the blockade slowly fall behind them. Let's make it count. Operation Prometheus. The Hyperion's journey through the outer solar system had been a masterclass in stealth operations. For 6 days, Captain Rodriguez had guided them through the complex dance of gravitational fields and sensor shadows, avoiding Xar patrols with a combination of skill and calculated risk. Now, as they approached the coordinates of Phoenix Station, an unsettling silence fell over the bridge. Multiple gravitational anomalies ahead, Lieutenant Park reported from the sensor station. The space-time distortions are. I've never seen anything like this. Sarah studied the readings with growing amazement. The entire region was wrapped in layers of warped space-time, creating a natural stealth field that would confuse even Xar sensors. They didn't just build a research station out here, she realized. They created a pocket universe. Can we safely enter? Rodriguez asked, her hands hovering over the helm controls. If we match the frequency of the outermost layer. Sarah's fingers flew across her console, calculating the precise approach vector. There. That should let us slip through without disrupting the field. The Hyperion edged forward, its hull creaking as space itself seemed to twist around them. For a moment, every screen went dark, and Sarah felt a strange sensation as if her consciousness was being stretched in multiple directions at once. Then reality snapped back into focus, and they found themselves in a bubble of calm space surrounding a massive structure. Phoenix Station hung before them like a dark star, its angular form a stark contrast to the organic curves of Xar architecture. But something was wrong. The station's outer rings were heavily damaged, showing signs of what looked like weapons fire. Life signs, Rodriguez demanded. None, Park replied. But I'm detecting residual power signatures. Some systems are still active after all these years. Look at the damage patterns, Sarah pointed out. These aren't recent. Whatever happened here, it was decades ago during the original incident. Rodriguez brought the Hyperion alongside one of the station's auxiliary docking ports. Dr. Chen, you've studied the Phoenix files. What exactly were they working on out here? Sarah hesitated. The files were heavily redacted, but I found references to something called Project Prometheus, an attempt to develop weapons that could disrupt Xar space-time technology. The theory was that if we could interfere with their ability to manipulate space-time, we could neutralize their technological advantage. And it worked too well, a new voice added. Dr. James Wu, the Hyperion's chief engineer, had joined them on the bridge. Look at these energy readings. They're still cycling after 50 years. Whatever they built in there, it's still active. The boarding team assembled in the airlock. Sarah, Wu, Rodriguez, and 2 security officers. Their suits were equipped with enhanced sensors and emergency beacons, though Sarah doubted either would work properly in this twisted pocket of space. Remember, Rodriguez briefed them, we have 22 days before the XR deadline. Whatever we find in there needs to be something we can use quickly. The station's interior was a maze of darkened corridors and abandoned laboratories. Emergency lighting still functioned in some sections, casting everything in a blood-red glow. They found signs of a hasty evacuation. Personal belongings scattered about, half-finished meals frozen in time. Main research lab should be 2 levels down, Sarah directed, consulting the station schematics. That's where. A distant sound echoed through the corridors, metal scraping against metal. Everyone froze. Motion sensors are going crazy, one of the security officers reported. Something's moving all around us, but I can't get a fix on it. Automated defense systems, Wu suggested. Sarah shook her head. The Phoenix files didn't mention any, but they were experimenting with space-time manipulation. Who knows what kind of temporal side effects that could have. They proceeded more cautiously, watching shadows that seemed to move when no one was looking. The main lab, when they reached it, was a cathedral of strange technology. Massive devices lined the walls, their purpose impossible to determine. At the center stood what appeared to be a containment chamber, its reinforced walls covered in complex mathematical formulae. This is it, Sarah breathed, approaching a still-active console. Project Prometheus. They were trying to create a controlled space-time disruption field, something that could selectively target XR technology while leaving human systems unaffected. Did they succeed? Rodriguez asked. Too well. Wu had been examining the containment chamber. Look at these readings. They created something that doesn't just disrupt space-time fields. It feeds on them. The more advanced the technology, the more it's drawn to it. The implications hit Sarah like a physical blow. That's why the XR never tried to claim this technology for themselves. It would be like throwing fuel on a fire. Their own advanced systems would make it stronger. A loud crash echoed from somewhere above them, followed by the sound of running footsteps. But the security team's motion trackers showed nothing. We need to work fast, Rodriguez decided. Dr. Chen, Dr. Wu, figure out how to contain and transport whatever they created here. The rest of us will. She was cut off by a scream of tortured metal. One of the massive devices along the wall suddenly twisted in on itself, as if being crushed by an invisible force. Then another followed suit, and another. The temporal effects are becoming unstable, Wu shouted over the chaos. The whole station is starting to collapse in on itself. Sarah rushed to the central console, her fingers flying over the controls. The original containment protocols are failing. When the station's structure gives way, whatever they created here is going to be released into normal space. Can you stop it? No, but she studied the emergency procedures left behind by the original research team. Maybe we can direct it. Give it a target it can't resist. Rodriguez caught on immediately. The XR fleet. They worked frantically as the station continued to tear itself apart around them. Sarah and Wu modified the containment protocols while Rodriguez coordinated with the Hyperion for emergency extraction. The security team set up portable shield generators to buy them time. Finally, Sarah stepped back from the console. It's done. When the station collapses, the entity they created will be drawn to the largest concentration of space-time manipulation technology in the system. The XR blockade, Rodriguez confirmed. But what happens when it reaches them? Before Sarah could answer, a new sound filled the station, a high-pitched whine that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The walls began to blur, reality itself becoming uncertain. Run, Wu shouted. The containment field is about to fail completely. They sprinted back through the disintegrating station, passing through corridors that sometimes seemed to loop impossibly and other times led to places they couldn't have connected to. Behind them, the fabric of space-time was unraveling. The Hyperion was waiting at the airlock, straining against the growing gravitational distortions. They dove through just as the station's structure finally gave way completely. Through the viewport, Sarah watched Phoenix Station collapse into itself, becoming a point of brilliant light that quickly faded. Did it work? Rodriguez demanded as they rushed to the bridge. Sarah checked the sensors. Something massive is moving through subspace, heading directly for the inner system. And it's accelerating. How long until it reaches the car fleet? At current speed, Sarah calculated quickly. Less than 48 hours. But Captain, we still don't know exactly what this thing will do when it gets there. Rodriguez smiled grimly. Then I suggest we find a good spot to watch the show. Because whatever happens next is going to change everything. As the Hyperion pulled away from the collapsing pocket of space-time, Sarah couldn't help but feel a mix of triumph and trepidation. They had found a weapon that could potentially save humanity, but they had also unleashed something that even its creators had feared. The true test would come when it reached the Tsar fleet, and then they would discover whether humanity's greatest scientific achievement would be their salvation or their doom. The price of knowledge. The Hyperion lurked in the shadow of a small Kuiper Belt object, its enhanced sensors tracking the progress of the entity they had released from Phoenix Station. On the bridge, Sarah Chen watched the data stream across her display with growing concern. The space-time anomaly was growing stronger as it moved through the solar system, leaving a trail of gravitational distortions in its wake. Energy signature has increased by another 30%, she reported. It's feeding off the background space-time distortions created by Tsar ships as it passes their patrol routes. Captain Rodriguez leaned forward in her chair. How much stronger will it get before reaching the main fleet? I don't know. The original Phoenix team never got to test it at this scale. They lost control of it during the initial experiment and had to contain it immediately. Sarah pulled up the original research data. According to these notes, they theorized it could grow exponentially if exposed to enough advanced technology. And we're about to point it at the largest concentration of advanced technology in the solar system. Dr. Wu added grimly. If those calculations are correct, the resulting reaction could tear a hole in space-time large enough to swallow half the inner system. The implications hung heavy in the air. They had found a weapon that could potentially defeat the Tsar, but using it might destroy everything they were trying to protect. A priority signal from Earth interrupted their discussion. Admiral Zhang's hologram appeared on the bridge, his expression grave. Dr. Chen, we've detected the anomaly you released. The Tsar have noticed it too. They're repositioning their fleet. Have they made any aggressive moves? Rodriguez asked. No. In fact, they've broadcast a new message. They're offering to withdraw completely from our solar system if we help them contain what they're calling the hunger. They seem genuinely afraid. Sarah's mind raced. They know what it is. The original Phoenix team must have based their research on something the Tsar had already encountered. That's why they're so careful with their space-time manipulation technology. They know it can attract these entities. Can we control it? Zhang demanded. Turn it back somehow. The Phoenix team tried. Their notes suggest any attempt to directly manipulate it just makes it stronger. It's like a predator evolved specifically to hunt advanced technology. Sarah studied the latest sensor data. But there might be another way. The entity seems drawn to the most efficient space-time distortions. If we could create a more attractive target than the Tsar fleet. You're talking about sacrificing Phoenix Station's research, Wu realized. Using the containment protocols we recovered to set up a trap. Better than sacrificing the entire inner system, Rodriguez pointed out. But we'd need somewhere isolated to set it up, far from any inhabited worlds. Zhang's hologram flickered as he consulted with someone off-screen. There's a research platform in orbit around Neptune. We evacuated when the Tsar arrived. We could repurpose its power systems. But Dr. Chen, if we do this, we lose our only advantage over the Tsar. Are you sure we can't control it? Sarah thought about the equations she'd seen in Phoenix Station, the warnings left behind by researchers who had glimpsed something fundamental about the nature of reality itself. Sir, I don't think anyone can control this thing. The best we can do is try to understand it well enough to avoid attracting more of them. More of them. The Phoenix team's final report suggested these entities exist naturally in the space between spaces. By pushing our technology too far, too fast, we risked drawing their attention. I think that's why the Khazar are so methodical in their expansion. They learned this lesson the hard way. A new alert flashed on Sarah's console. The entity's energy signature had spiked again, and its course had shifted slightly. "It's accelerating," she reported. "Whatever we're going to do, we need to decide now." John was silent for a long moment. The Security Council is split. Half want to let it hit the Khazar fleet, damn the consequences. The others want to take the deal and help contain it. He looked directly at Sarah. "You've studied this thing more than anyone. What's your recommendation?" Sarah felt the weight of countless lives resting on her next words. She thought about the Artemis, about Alina Walsh's sacrifice to buy them time, about the arrogance of both humanity and the Khazar in thinking they could control forces they barely understood. "We contain it," she said finally, "not because we trust the Khazar, but because this entity represents something bigger than our conflict. It's a warning about the price of pushing technology too far, too fast. If we ignore that warning, we're no better than they are." Jean nodded slowly. "I'll inform the council." Captain Rodriguez set course for Neptune. "Dr. Chen, you have 12 hours to design a containment system that will work, and I suggest we all pray this doesn't blow up in our faces." The next 12 hours were a blur of calculations and preparations. Sarah and Wu worked frantically to adapt the Phoenix containment protocols, while Rodriguez coordinated with Earth forces to prepare the Neptune platform. The Khazar fleet maintained their position, but moved their largest ships back, creating a clear path for the entity. "Containment protocols are ready," Sarah announced finally. "We've modified the platform's power systems to generate a space-time signature that should be irresistible to the entity. Once it's drawn in, we can establish a permanent containment field." "And the Khazar?" Rodriguez asked. "Can we trust them to keep their word?" "They're already withdrawing their heavy ships," John's hologram reported. "Long-range sensors show them falling back beyond the Kuiper Belt. They're scared, and that tells us more about these entities than anything in the Phoenix files." Sarah watched the entity's approaching energy signature on her display. Soon, they would attempt something that had never been done before, the controlled containment of a force that fed on the very fabric of space-time. Success meant a chance for peace, or at least understanding, between humanity and the Khazar. Failure meant potentially unleashing something that could render their entire solar system uninhabitable. "We're about to change everything we thought we knew about physics," Wu said quietly beside her. "Again." Sarah nodded, thinking about all the lives that had been lost leading to this moment. Knowledge always has a price. The question is whether we're wise enough to learn from paying it. The entity continued its inexorable approach toward Neptune, drawn by the siren song of their hastily constructed trap. In less than 6 hours, they would discover whether humanity's greatest scientific achievement would lead to their salvation or their doom. The price of knowledge was about to come due, and all they could do was hope they had learned enough to pay it safely. Humanity's stand. The Neptune research platform hung against the dark void like a fragile web of light, its systems humming with power as they generated the complex space-time signature designed to attract the entity. On the Hyperion's bridge, Sarah Chen watched the final preparations with a mixture of hope and dread. Everything they had learned from Phoenix Station had led to this moment. "Entity will be in range in 30 minutes, Lieutenant Park reported from his station. Its energy signature continues to grow." "Khazar fleet status," Rodriguez demanded. "Still withdrawing. Their heavy ships are already beyond Pluto's orbit. Smaller vessels are maintaining observation positions, but keeping their space-time distortion fields minimal." Sarah studied the readings from their jury-rigged containment system. The modified Phoenix protocols were working so far, creating a carefully controlled pocket of warped space-time that should prove irresistible to the entity. But the power requirements were enormous, and the platform's reactors were already showing signs of strain. Dr. Wu reports the containment field is stable, Park announced, but he says we'll only get one shot at this. Once the entity enters the field, we have to seal it immediately or the whole system will collapse. Rodriguez turned to Sarah. You're sure about the timing? The Phoenix team's notes were clear. The entity's reaction time to changes in space-time fields is nearly instantaneous. We'll have less than a second to activate the containment protocols once it commits to the trap. A priority signal from Earth interrupted them. Admiral Zhang's hologram appeared, his expression tense. We're picking up unusual readings from the Xar observation vessels. There. Suddenly alarms blared across the bridge. Multiple space-time distortions. Park shouted. The Xar ships are powering up their advanced systems. They're trying to draw it away from our trap. Sarah realized with horror. They think we're going to try to weaponize it, instead of containing it. The entity's trajectory immediately began to shift, drawn by the more powerful space-time signatures of Xar technology. Their carefully laid trap was falling apart. Can we increase power to the containment field? Rodriguez demanded. The reactors are already at maximum. Sarah replied. If we push them any harder, they'll. She stopped as inspiration struck. Wait. The Xar ships are creating multiple small distortions. But what if we created one massive one? Something they can't match without bringing their heavy ships back. How? Zhang asked. We overload the reactors. All of them. Not just to failure, but to total containment loss. The resulting space-time rupture would be enormous. That would destroy the platform, Rodriguez pointed out. And anyone nearby. Not if we time it perfectly. Sarah's fingers flew across her console as she ran the calculations. The entity will be drawn to the rupture. The moment it makes contact, the energy release should power the containment protocols at many times their designed capacity. We can trap it, and the reactor explosion, in the same space-time bubble. Zhan's hologram flickered as he consulted with others off-screen. The Council is asking if this could make things worse. What if the entity feeds off the explosion instead? Then we'll have given it exactly what it wants, a concentrated source of space-time distortion, Sarah admitted. But I don't think that's what will happen. The Phoenix team's notes suggested these entities aren't just drawn to space-time distortions. They try to stabilize them. It's like an immune response on a cosmic scale. Rodriguez studied the tactical display, where the entity's path continued to waver between their trap and the Xar ships. How long do we have to decide? Minutes at most. Once it fully commits to the Xar signatures, we'll lose our chance. Zhang's expression hardened. Do it, but get your people off that platform first. The evacuation took precious minutes they barely had. Wu and his engineering team worked frantically to rig the reactors for simultaneous overload, while Sarah refined the containment protocols one last time. The Hyperion pulled back to a safer distance, though Sarah suspected safe was a relative term when dealing with forces that could twist space-time itself. Evacuation complete, Rodriguez reported. Platform is running on automated systems. Dr. Chen. Sarah initiated the reactor overload sequence. Point of no return in 3 minutes. The entities noticed. It's changing course again. They watched in tense silence as the massive energy signature shifted, drawn by the growing distortion around Neptune platform. The Xar observation ships powered down their systems, perhaps finally understanding what humanity was trying to do. Reactors at critical levels, Park announced. Containment fields failing. Sarah's hands hovered over the controls. Everything depended on precise timing now. Too early, and the containment protocols would fail before the entity fully committed. Too late, and the reactor explosion would tear apart the platform before they could trap anything. Entity approaching terminal velocity, Park reported. Impact in 10 seconds. Sarah watched the numbers scroll across her display, waiting for the perfect moment. The entity's energy signature merged with the growing reactor overload, creating a cascade of space-time distortions that their sensors could barely track. "Now," she commanded, activating the modified containment protocols. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then reality itself appeared to fold inward around Neptune platform. The entity's massive energy signature contracted, drawn into a singularity point along with the reactor explosion. A sphere of absolute darkness formed, surrounded by a shell of twisted space-time that bent all light around it. "Containment field is holding," Sarah reported, hardly daring to believe it. "The entity's energy signature is diminishing. It's stabilizing the warped space-time instead of feeding on it." "Just as you predicted," Zhang said. "The Xar ships are broadcasting. They're standing down completely, withdrawing all forces from the solar system." Rodriguez smiled grimly. "They know we understand now. About the entities, about the price of pushing technology too far. This wasn't just about containing a threat. It was about proving we could learn from our mistakes." Sarah studied the readings from their newly created containment field. The entity was still there, still powerful, but now it was trapped in a self-sustaining bubble of stabilized space-time, a reminder of both humanity's ingenuity and their capacity for wisdom. "What do we do with it now?" Park asked. "We study it carefully." Sarah thought about everything they had learned, everything that had led to this moment. The Xar's message wasn't just a warning about these entities. It was a test to see if we could figure out how to contain one without destroying ourselves in the process. "And we passed," Rodriguez concluded. John's hologram nodded. "The Xar ambassador is requesting a meeting. They're offering to share their research on these entities, to help us understand what we're dealing with." It seems our solution impressed them. Sarah looked at the containment field one last time. They had started this journey searching for knowledge, for a way to defend Earth. What they had found instead was understanding, not just of advanced technology or space-time physics, but of the responsibilities that came with wielding such power. "We should accept their offer," she said finally. "But we should also remember this moment. Remember that sometimes the greatest victory isn't in winning a war, but in finding a better way forward." The Hyperion began its journey back to Earth, leaving behind a small portion of warped space that would serve as humanity's first step into a larger universe. They had faced extinction and emerged stronger, not through superior firepower or advanced technology, but through the uniquely human combination of innovation, determination, and the wisdom to know when not to use a weapon. The price of knowledge had been high, but in paying it, humanity had proven themselves ready for the next stage of their evolution. The stars awaited, and this time they would explore them not as conquerors or victims, but as students eager to learn from both their successes and their failures. The age of innocence was over. The age of understanding had begun.